Welcome back, everyone, to the Ask Dr. Be Good show, where we talk about the fascinating things going on in public education that impact legacy. And we have more information today due to the coronavirus that we want to share with you. And we're doing this in what may turn out to be fascinating information for you, or maybe a little bit of too much information, but we really wanted to make sure that all parents and staff had an opportunity to look at the plan to reopen schools in a deeper way. And so this podcast is going to be totally about going through the manual so that we can capture the information and make it available for you to share with your family and friends who have kids at Legacy, and staff members as well, to hear about what far lengths we have gone to prepare the buildings for really kids to come back, staff to come back, parents to be able to walk in there someday again. So let's get started. We have with us Stacy Weaver, who is our Senior Director for School Operations and Safety. So welcome, Stacy, and thank you for taking on the charge of walking us through this manual and making sure that parents and staff have a chance to really hear about how deep we are going into making sure that they are going to be safe when they come back. And the manual also addresses other things like the kind of learning we're going to have. So let me go ahead and pull up my version here. And just as an intro, we're going to focus on the key priorities and focus areas, which is public health and safety, instructional continuity, maintaining the workforce, parent choice, which is huge, equity, and innovation and communication. So under those key points, Stacy Weaver, why don't you go through and walk us through over the next 30 minutes this manual so that we can hear about all the work that's been put into making sure that we have not only our building safe, but then a strong instructional remote learning program.
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. Thanks, Dr. Good. So I think that we really need to talk about, like you said, our key priorities. And when we put those key priorities together, what we did was we took a lot of input. We sent surveys out. Since March, we've been sending surveys out constantly to parents to get their input and feedback to see what they need. We've spoke with our teachers in faculty meetings. We've spoke with our parents in Facebook Live meetings and Google meetings and things like that. So we've gotten a lot of input from all of our stakeholders, to make these decisions. And so, of course, we're at the point right now where the first 3 weeks we have learned is going to definitely be online learning at this point. We don't know when we will go to what they call more of a hybrid, maybe or just the fact that some students will come to school on campus and some students will remain at home. So one of the main important facts that we want to get across to parents, that if a parent decides that their children are going virtually, no problem, they're going virtual. If they want to switch to on-campus learning, they have to finish the semester that they're in, and they have to give prior notice 2 weeks before the next semester starts. So let's say we have a 9-week grading period, rather, I said semester, but we have a 9-week grading period. So at the 7th week of that grading period, they must let the campus director know that they're going to move their kids from online to on campus. If they miss that window, they're going to have to wait another 9-week grading period before they can do that, because you finish in the grading period that you started. Now, if a child is on campus and then they have to go to virtual learning, that can be done in a 24-hour period. We just let teachers and technology know that's an easy switch, because we don't have to worry about staffing on the campus. So just something important that we wanted to let you know. Another thing that we've really focused on is making sure that we don't that we continue all the great programs that we've had, like our GT Saturdays continued, and our special education students are still getting their time with their special education teachers, fine arts, athletics, student groups and clubs. We're still trying to maintain all that, although virtually. So none of that's, stopped. We've continued with all of that and move forward on it. There's a lot of talk about what type of instructional learning our students are going to have. And please, Dr. Good, anytime you want to jump in and talk about some of this, please do. But, we have our face-to-face learning and our virtual learning. Right now, those are the two options that we're preparing for until we were told we're going to go ahead and start online until further notice. So as far as our face-to-face learning, it's going to be in the same type of setting before. We're still going to be using Google Classroom and Echo, so none of that's changing for the students. Teachers will plan instruction just as quickly and easily and transferable from face-to-face to remote. If we have closures or things stop, it will be very easy to go back to it. And when we talk about our virtual learning, so our virtual learning, basically the teachers will teach students from the classroom or from remote locations. Right now, all of our teachers obviously are teaching from remote locations. In this setting, they'll also provide instruction, and all of the learning resources through the use of Echo and Google Classroom. We're already a new tech network district, so we've been using technology and online learning for quite some time. Parents will still have to support students, as learning coaches, and we want to ensure that they have access to devices and places to work and that they're engaged in their virtual activities. We will provide all kinds of coaching and training for parents as well when we enter the new school year, because we want them to understand how to use Google Classroom, how Echo is used, how to go to Skyward to look at grades and things like that. So we will. That's a new piece for us that is basically coaching parents as well. We're used to coaching teachers and we're used to coaching students, but we're opening it up to parents. We have decided to go with asynchronous learning, which basically has a lot of moving pieces to it. So asynchronous is not what most parents are used to, where it's a teacher in front of their students for the whole period, because we're keeping our master schedule. But students have the opportunity, because a good majority of everything that teachers are teaching will be placed in Echo or in Google, and they can pre-record themselves or record when they are teaching, and then that link will go directly into Echo or Google Classroom. So if a parent has to work the majority of the day and then they're going to come home and make sure their student does lessons and work, they can go into Echo or the Google Classroom. They're going to be able to find all those tools that they need to make sure that their student's successful in learning, and they can turn in their work. So long as a student is engaged every day in some part of the day before midnight, that's going to count for attendance, because we'll talk about that a little later, but attendance is still going to be a priority. It's much more important than the way it was perceived maybe when we had the original shutdowns and went virtual. There was a lot of leniency. Now we're back to our legacy PCA code of conduct and handbook.
So let me just jump in there and emphasize 3 points. One is that we will have the original grading policy, the one pre-COVID. The pre-COVID grading policy will kick back in, which is tougher than the COVID one was. And number 2 is we will follow the state standard in preparation for STAR at the end of the school year. And then truancy laws kick in, so attendance becomes as it ever was. And we started last year a truancy program that would lead to a tribunal if parents and kids continued to rack up absences. So those 3 things is an indication from TEA, Texas Education Agency, that they're not playing, that they're wanting serious school to go on despite the craziness of COVID. We've had time to practice a little bit in working with a remote environment, and now they want serious school to go on. Thank you.
Exactly. And with that said, so that's that 90%. So students will have to, be in their classes. Our 8th graders that are taking high school classes and our high school students, in order to get credit for those classes, they must be in attendance 90% of the time. So that's, really we're just back to everything's the same, except for we may be doing some remote classes is really what it is. Now, just so parents know, we haven't changed much at all as far as when we go virtual learning K through 5. we're still going to have the restorative circles, and we're still going to do check-ins. There'll be the PBL protocols, and balanced literacy is still going to drive our instruction along with our PBL and our guided reading. They'll still have small group instruction. There'll be times where teachers will communicate with students outside of the learning environment, but in small group. So if they're struggling or they need assistance, that'll all be provided. As far as the upper grades, they're still going to, continue 6 through 12. Will have their master schedule. We're still preparing them for STAR, SAT, PSATs. MAP testing will be 3 times a year like we normally do. Please, again, Dr. Good, if there's anything you want to jump in on, please stop me.
Sure.
Okay. Interventions and enrichment, RTI, which is our response to intervention for our students that are struggling or in need, that's going to continue. Enrichment for remote learning will continue. We'll do that through like girls and coding clubs, and we'll have our GT and basically the robotics. All of those things are still going to continue, and in after school environments like they have before. And like Dr. Good said, special education, all those supports are going to continue. I won't read them all.
Let me mention there with the special ed, dyslexia, speech therapy, if you want to know exactly how we do that and did it not only last spring, but also during the summer, we have a podcast we did on it, a radio show we did on it. So there is a lot of information out there that's already talked about how we successfully managed to meet the minutes of the IEP and 504 and dyslexia and speech therapy. And so if you want to know more, put the question in the comments and we'll try to find those links for you so that you can also listen at greater depth about how we meet the needs of kids in a remote setting. Thank you.
Sure. So as we go through the handbook, there's an area that says instructional roles and learning tools for everybody. And so I won't read them all, but I'll highlight as you go through the handbook. There's a sections in blue, and it lists basically the expectations that we have for students, the expectations we have for parents, because we have expectations for our parents as well, and of course our teachers. And just to highlight it, it goes over basically things like the child needs to be prepared, they need to complete, their deadlines that are made by their teachers. If we go back, when and if we go back to face-to-face, we want our students to remember that they're responsible every day to bring in a charged laptop with them. We want them to know that they should, have that backpack ready, that mask ready. They should be already practicing wearing those masks. I mean, wearing a mask all day is a big change. So parents, I would definitely say, have them start wearing the mask, maybe an hour and then an hour and a half, and as much as they can tolerate so they can get used to that, because that will be something that we're wearing on our campus. We've gotten a lot of questions about if we're going to provide face shields and things like that. If you're going to want your young child to wear a face shield, I think it's best that you find one that they're comfortable with. The face shields that we have are for adults, and they're pretty large, and they're not going to be very comfortable for a child. So if that's something that you feel strongly about, that you might want to start looking into different types of masks and shields that'll be comfortable for your child. Now, as far as parents, we're going to ask you basically to be learning coaches at home and to really make sure your students are paying attention, that they're on task, that's if you're doing it all day with them and you're working with them. In the evenings, if you're sitting down, obviously you're and using the asynchronous, you'll be doing that. But during with them, just monitor and make sure that they're using everything. We have Lexia, we have Achieve 3000, we have a lot of other programs. So when they're done with their schoolwork, there's still lots of resources and supplemental educational tools that we would like them to continue to use that they used when they were in school. And that'll be explained more when you have Meet the Teacher Night, and teachers will continue their communication with parents. Another thing, students know how to navigate through their Skyward and through their Echo or Google, but parents, we want to make sure that you're continually, going into Skyward, looking at your students' grades. We send so much communication and different things out. The things that are going on with COVID-19, that will all be sent out to you. And if you go through the handbook, like I said, I don't want to bother you to read it, but I really want to take you to the learning tools for both environments. So our technology team is committed to being available and to assisting and coaching parents, students, and teachers. And there's quite a few links under the learning tools for both environments. And basically, there's a link there that'll take you right to our website. So if your technology device isn't working, instead of trying to find it on our website, you can go right here. It'll take you right in there. You fill out a form, and within 24 hours, somebody from technology will contact you about bringing in your computer or helping you fix it. There's all kinds of virtual resources. There's parent access for Echo and Google Classroom, and there's links to other applications we use just so that parents can learn how to use those different landings and supports that we have for them in technology. Alrighty. And then basically the protocol. So before we open the school, we want parents to know that we do have an adequate supply of PPEs, the cleaning supplies, hand sanitizers, gloves, all of those things. We've been preparing since March. We were very aware that this could be long term. We've had a fantastic, I would say, fantastic team working on this from curriculum to custodial, and we've been making sure that we're prepared for the long term, virtually or on campus. All of our cleaning products are approved by the government and per the guidelines, so everything's environmentally safe. You have to be very careful when you're using chemicals in schools because children are in schools, obviously. So everything that we're using has been cleared by the CDC, the Health and Human Services, and Texas Education Agency. So we want you to know that has been Mr. Davis, our facilities director, has been on top of this from day one, and he's constantly communicating with myself and Dr. Good. He's taken things even a step above, like as far as like air conditioning, all of those vents and the different filters are going to, the filters are going to be cleaned weekly, where that's not a requirement, but we're going to do that and make sure, so that the air that's being filtered is safe for the students. So we have all of that in place. I just want parents to know that we've been on top of it.
Let me jump in there to say that we're keeping up with sort of new ideas. This COVID period has created an opportunity for many of our vendors to be more creative. And I'll give you a couple of examples. One is a lanyard for kids to hang their masks on, to clip their mask to when they're not being used. And so I saw that this week. I sent it to Mr. Davis, and he's on it. A legacy lanyard. You clip your mask on during lunchtime, during PE time, so that the kids can keep better track, right? So that seemed like a no-brainer. It's not very expensive, and so we're doing that. And then today, I saw portable sort of plastic cubby types. Can you think of a testing cubby where it was three sides? And so these are made out of plastic, and that they're portable. You can take them with you from room to room. Not that we would ask students to do that, but they were not super expensive, and that made a whole lot more sense than ordering these huge sheets of see-through plastic and getting them mounted and so forth. So we have very creative manufacturers out there, and when something makes sense, we jump on it. So school as we know it is going to look a little bit different, but it's going to be, I hate to say a whole lot safer, because school was a pretty safe place before. You had the occasional kid catching a cold or a flu from somebody, but that's been going on for hundreds of years. And then maybe occasionally spraining an ankle or breaking an arm off the playground. Again, pretty normal with kids, right? But this is a different kind of safe. This is a much cleaner safe, and um, and that's just what we have to do, and we understand that, and we're doing it.
And a lot of the protocols, we have all the signs up in the school now, and we have the little paw prints that are going to be 6 feet apart. But the hand washing things, all of these things will now teach our students, honestly, better hygiene. And then when cold and flus come along, hopefully these will become common practices, because these are things we should be doing anyway, as far as with the students, the hand sanitizer and keeping them clean. Now we will have the screening protocols. It could be, so we're not required, but we're bending towards, we're not going to have that many students in the onset on campus from our surveys. So we'll, ask them the questions. We'll do temp checks. We'll do things like that. Our staff will be going through the same things. Everyone will be required to wear masks. We're going to ask for our teachers to also wear shields. We are going to go over all the protocols about handled, how things are to be cleaned, how they're to be wiped down. So we will have all these screening protocols, the COVID questions that have to be asked every day. So all of those things are going to be covered. They'll be posted. Teachers are going to be trained on all of this. Our nurses have been going, even though they're on vacation at this time, they have been really good about attending different trainings that I've been sending them on opening a school in COVID, the nurse's responsibility, even information on tracing, which is another whole different podcast. But all of those things, I've been keeping them up to date on trainings, and they've been more than glad to attend. So we're really, honestly, in a really good place. As far as parents are worried about what happens when COVID comes on and how, what happens. Now, if we have somebody that tests positive for COVID, we do have to shut the school. It's not for these long extended times that everybody's believing, because like the Commissioner of Education, Mike Morath explained, if on Friday you close down and you have the whole place cleaned on Saturday, by Monday you could bring, students and staff back. Now, anybody that was exposed to the person that tested positive, of course, will have to quarantine for 14 days. And so those students will have to go to remote learning until, those 14 days pass and they don't have COVID or no, they don't have any illnesses. And so we have that we're definitely going to do. But the whole school will not be closed down for 14 days. It will be cleaned, and those that were not in the infected areas will be able to return, and that's students as well.
So
yeah, there's a lot. Yeah,
there's a lot, but we have the understanding that that's what it's going to take from a safety standpoint. It's also from a trust standpoint. Parents have heard me say this before, that we know that we are needing to regain the trust of our parents. That's happening all over the country. And so being able to share with parents repeatedly, because we've been saying a lot of these things to parents, but guess what? You guys are still asking a lot of the same questions around these areas. So that's telling us that we either have been reaching new parents, and in some cases we have, because we've increased our communication efforts to try to find more parents to answer our surveys and to go to our parent meetings and so forth. But just sometimes you parents need to hear assurances more than once, because we're talking about your kids, right? And so
sure.
we're okay with that. And so we're hoping that this is just another way that we cement that trust rebuilding around safety at school.
Sure. And with that said, some of our protocols, like for disinfecting and hand sanitizing, we've put hand sanitizer stations in every classroom, in all the hallways, at all the doors. So we're real careful with that. We're taking away as many reoccurrences of touching things as possible. Now, with safety and security, I'm a big proponent for classroom doors locked. But the guidance we're getting is that those doors should be left open for better air circulation and things like that. With that said, we will train our teachers how to do this safely. Once we go back on campus, we will have people monitoring the halls because of this. We did go to keyless entry, so we've upgraded our safety and security where people can't get into the building. And to be honest, we're not allowing anybody in the building. So we're not going to have visitors. We're not going to have parents there eating lunch with their children. We're going to do as much as we can, to keep only students, or should I say only have students and teachers and people that work in the offices on campus, and have as much virtual contact with vendors and things like that, rather than having them come in, so that we can keep that safe environment and we keep the same cohort of students together. So there's a lot of changes in our safety protocols, that are going to be going on and when I say that, that also means daily cleanings of the campus and the restrooms. Those are done usually maybe in the beginning, once during the day, the custodians will go through, clean them up. Then at night we go again. Now this is going to be done periodically by usage. So, kids go into the bathroom, we're going to have to spray, clean, wipe down handles, things like that. So we have so many protocols in place. And like I said, I'm not going to read them, but they are in the handbook here. And so and that'll include like common areas where, students come in every day, or the doors that they walk through. We're going to be using multiple entrances, which usually, on a safety and security, you want everything locked down, one door in, one door out. But because we have to keep kids 6 feet apart when we go back to school, we will probably by grade level, have different exits and entrances every day, and parents will know, even though we use Driveline, we're still going to have them exiting different doors at different times. So, like I said, there's so much that we can talk about, that's going on, that the protocols that we're putting in place. A big part of that is training. When we come back, our teachers come back and all of our staff comes back, there's going to be a lot of training on protocols so that we keep the campus safe and clean. There's nobody, not even the superintendent, that can walk on a campus without temperature check, masks, face coverings. Our superintendent, Dr. Good, you've given blanketed permission. If anybody sees anybody, you see something, say something, and you said, yourself. And we want teachers and we want office staff to do that, because we want to at all times maintain the highest safety protocols so that we don't have to worry. Something else that we will talk about right now, it's not as prominent because we're not going to be on campus, but that's going to be maybe staggered times. Parents have to be aware that pickup and drop-offs have to be staggered, and they really have to adhere to the time that we give them to pick up. And, we realize, some grade level parents have children in multiple grade levels. We'll assign one time for all their kids to be picked up. But if that's a later time, we have to ask them, please respect that. Don't come a half hour early when your child's time to be picked up is the last part of the day. So we really need parents to work with us and help us and follow the guidelines that we put out there. And that'll be for dismissal and for coming in, for dismissal and for when they drop them off. Breakfast and lunch. Right now, we're looking at, unless things change, we're looking at they'll be eating in the same classroom. So basically, lunches will be delivered to the classrooms. If they're bringing their own lunch, I don't want parents to have the expectation that we can refrigerate or warm things up for children. None of that will be possible. So whatever they bring for lunch has to be something that, that's in containers or lunch boxes that are going to provide, a coolness and thermal to keep them cold or hot if that's how they're sending the food, because we won't have the opportunities to do that. So we just want them to be aware of that and need to bring, drinks and things like that. We are now, Dr. Good, if I'm correct, we are now free breakfast for everyone on campus and lunch, if that's correct, right? So our students, we're a full free lunch service now for our students. So if they want to buy lunch every day, it'll be delivered right to them in the classroom, and that might help parents out a little bit on that. When we do go back to school, we will also hold a training for our teachers so that all of the kids are separated by 6 feet apart like they're supposed to. We'll make sure that they only use their own supplies. There won't be shared supplies. If there's anything that had to be shared, it will have to be cleaned properly and sanitized before being used again. Playgrounds for right now, even if we take kids outside for PE or recess, they will not be using the playground, because it has to be chemically cleaned with special chemical, has to sit for a certain amount of time. And with the amount of time it would take to clean between classes, we wouldn't get too many kids on the playground. They will be able to play outside, with balls, different things, kicking them with their feet, not touching things. The other thing is water fountains. Students have to bring their own water bottle. They will not be able to drink from the water fountain. That will be a practice that will not be allowed, and they'll be taught that when they come back on campus, that they have to fill water bottles. So parents, water bottles get lost very easily. I suggest, getting a few water bottles and having them on hand so that you have those to send daily with your child.
So can you hear me now?
Yes, I could hear you before, but yes.
Okay. So we are just about at the end of our 30 minutes. So let's just remind parents that they're in it with us. They're in it with us to help kids stay safe. You have to label your child's things, label their mask. If they come with a face shield, label their face shield. If they have a, just so that we can really, really keep track of everything that belongs to everybody who's coming into the building. Since we have 2 minutes left, Ms. Weaver, is there a 2-minute wrap up you want to do? Anything that you haven't covered? because really you still could have gone another 15, 20 minutes probably on this. But can you give me a 2-minute wrap up?
Sure. So I think what I want parents to know is all decisions that we're making are for the safety of our staff, our students, and our community, and that we continue to have updates with CDC, TEA daily, and everything that we say can change in a moment. So please understand, and I put that in the beginning of the book as a disclaimer. This is fluid as the Texas Education Agency, the health departments, and the local health officials change things. This may change and our guidance may change. So just please bear with us and just remember that everything that we do, we do with, student-centered, teacher-centered. We want everybody to have a safe return to campus and really keep down that COVID spread if possible.
That's right. So we thank you for that. We thank you for going through the manual with us. We now have this very much recorded, and parents can go through it and maybe encourage them to go through it as they're looking through the manual, because we've added extra information, anecdotal information that goes with some of the things that you've put in here. We'll also put the link to the manual in the comments and the post so that you can quickly click on it. So thank you very much, Ms. Weaver, for taking the time to really learn this manual. And pardon me for holding this thing won't stay in my ear. And so if there are any questions about this, please put them in the comments and we will get back to Ken. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ask Dr. Be Good show. For more information on Legacy Preparatory Charter Schools, visit our website, legacypca.com, or call 469-249-1099. And remember to like us on Facebook, where we stream live weekly Tuesdays at 3 p.m.